Welcome to Toon Bites, your one-stop channel for snappy, entertaining movie recaps served fresh and full of twists in every bite. The movie begins with a depiction of an underwater kingdom where the Fish King, wearing a magical ring, communicates with his spy, the Frog. The king asks about the whereabouts of the fish he wants to marry, but the Frog admits he doesn't know, angering the king. The king orders the Frog to search rivers, streams, and ponds until he finds her. Then, the scene shifts to a Russian village where we see the house of a blind blacksmith and his son, Ivan, who wakes up to the sound of his dog barking. Ivan is kind-hearted but somewhat naive. When he leaves the house, his blind father insists that he must learn the blacksmithing trade. Ivan agrees, and his father asks him to catch something for them to eat. Ivan takes a bucket and a fishing rod and heads to the ice-covered river. When Ivan reaches the river, he drills a hole in the ice and casts his fishing line. Suddenly, bubbles start forming in the water, and Ivan steps back in surprise. Out of nowhere, a jet of water shoots a fish directly into his bucket. Ivan is thrilled with his easy catch and heads home, thinking about the meal he will prepare. But the fish surprises him by speaking and pleading not to be cooked. Astonished that the fish can talk, Ivan listens as it offers him 3 wishes in exchange for being returned to the river. Overjoyed, Ivan begins to think about his wishes. Without realizing it, he expresses a desire to see the entire city without leaving his home. Suddenly, a miracle occurs, and his house begins to rise into the sky. The fish informs him that his first wish has come true. Ivan is amazed and excited about the possibilities ahead. Although he expressed his wish thoughtlessly, the fish explains that it was indeed a valid wish. His workshop becomes part of a moving vehicle that travels beyond his house. The fish clarifies that Ivan wanted to explore the city without leaving his workshop, so the workshop accompanies him on his journey. Despite his disbelief in the cold winter, Ivan mutters wishes for warmth and greenery. Instantly, the ice melts, and the weather transforms into a warm spring, turning the scenery into a garden. The fish informs him that 2 of his wishes have now been fulfilled, leaving only 1 wish remaining. Carrying the fish in the bucket, Ivan regrets wasting his wishes on trivial things and laments not asking for something greater. The fish responds that everyone wishes based on their perspective of the world. As they continue their journey, some thieves stop Ivan, intending to rob it. When they find no money, they try to take the fish. Ivan seizes a moment of distraction and escapes with the bucket. The thieves chase him, but with no way out, Ivan decides to release the fish into the river, asking it to stay there to remain safe. The angry thieves hang Ivan by his head from a tree and leave. After a while, a beautiful girl arrives and helps free him. When Ivan notices a scarf with a fish design on her shoulder, he realizes that she is the fish he had just released into the lake, transformed into a human to save him. She introduces herself as Yana. To ensure she doesn't escape, Ivan takes the scarf and tells her that he still has 1 wish left, which he will use at the right time. Curious, Yana asks about his plan. Ivan reveals that his goal is to marry the daughter of the Russian Tsar. Yana asks if that will be his 3rd wish, but he assures her that he will try to achieve it through his own means and asks for her help. She agrees to assist him, and the scene shifts to the Tsar's palace, where a maid informs Princess Nancy that the English ambassador is on his way. The news excites Nancy, as she has long dreamed of marrying an Englishman. She quickly prepares herself, but Tsar Yar, who harbors a new hatred for the English, does not want his daughter to marry one of them. The English ambassador arrives, intending to win the Tsar's approval and ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. He presents Princess Nancy with a parasol, which delights her, but the Tsar disapproves and scolds the ambassador, accusing the English of coming only to plunder. The ambassador tries to change the Tsar's opinion and offers him a gift to alter his view of the English. Meanwhile, Ivan and Yana arrive at the kingdom. The ambassador presents the Tsar with a strange device that produces music on its own, hiding the fact that a man inside the machine operates it by pressing buttons. No one is aware of the trick. While the ambassador showcases the music, Ivan and Yana observe from behind the palace walls. Despite the demonstration, the Tsar remains unimpressed, stating that they have no need for such a device. However, Nancy is completely enamored with the English ambassador and wants to marry him. In a romantic moment, the ambassador begins kissing Nancy's hand, leaving the Tsar puzzled about how to convince his daughter otherwise. At this moment, Ivan bursts in and suggests to the Tsar that he does not need to marry the princess to the Englishman because he can bring a machine that truly plays music on its own. Hearing this, the Tsar is delighted, as he was looking for any excuse to prevent his daughter's marriage to the Englishman. The Tsar tells Ivan that if he brings such a machine, he can ask for whatever he wants. Ivan asks if he can marry the princess, and the Tsar agrees. However, the princess is upset upon hearing this, as she wants to marry the ambassador and does not love Ivan. She tries to intimidate him, but Ivan remains steadfast. The Tsar orders that Ivan be given new clothes and shoes for the journey, as he is poor, and the Tsar wants to prepare him appropriately for the task. Ivan, who had been wearing old socks, is overjoyed by the offer. Upon leaving, he shares the news with Yana, who warns him that although the musical machine exists, it is very difficult to obtain. When Ivan asks why, she explains that the machine is in the possession of a creature in the dark forest, and everyone who has tried to retrieve it has not returned alive. Yana reveals that the machine has strange powers. If it plays a joyful tune, people will dance uncontrollably until they collapse from exhaustion and are then eaten by the creature. If it plays a sad tune, people will cry until they fall asleep and are also eaten by the creature. Understanding the danger, Ivan decides to take the risk. He and Yana prepare prepare a bag of food to begin their search. As they venture deeper into the dark forest and overcome difficult paths, they finally approach their goal. Upon reaching the forest's threshold, Yana tells Ivan that he must continue alone. As he advances through the dense forest, he finds himself surrounded by skeletal remains, evidence of those who attempted the task before him. Suddenly, he hears the creature's voice asking if he too is seeking the musical machine. Ivan confirms his intent, and the creature proposes a challenge. If Ivan can resist the machine's music without losing control, he will be given the machine. The creature asks whether Ivan prefers to hear a sad tune or a joyful one. Ivan chooses the sad tune. Unexpectedly, the song has no effect on Ivan, who even begins to sing along with the subsequent verses. The creature, astonished, asks how Ivan knows the song and why it doesn't affect him. Ivan explains that his mother used to sing this song to him every day when he was small. That's why it doesn't affect him. After the creature assessed the challenge, it admitted to Ivan that it would die of hunger if it handed over the machine. Ivan offered it food from his bag, which made the creature very happy. The creature thanked Ivan but still refused to hand over the machine. However, it decided to walk with Ivan and told him to consider it a friend. Meanwhile, by the river, Yana was waiting for Ivan, sitting quietly. Suddenly, the frog, the king's messenger, arrived and handed her a letter. The king had been searching for her everywhere and wanted her to come immediately so he could marry her. Yana firmly replied, telling the frog to inform the king that she would never marry him. At that moment, Ivan arrived with a musical instrument. He overheard the conversation between Yana and the frog. Out of curiosity, Yana asked him if he had finally obtained the musical instrument. Ivan nodded, and after a while, they decided to return. On the way back, Ivan told Yana that he understood her refusal to marry the king because he had escaped from there. Yana confirmed this and said she didn't love him. In the next scene, the events shift to the king's palace. The English ambassador, now disguised as the Italian ambassador, was trying to convince the king again to allow him to marry the princess. She recognized him and was happy, but before he could propose to her, Ivan arrived with the musical instrument and the cat, who began playing a joyful tune. This made everyone in the royal court dance uncontrollably until they were exhausted by the magical music. Eventually, at Ivan's request, the cat stopped playing. The king, impressed, praised Ivan for the remarkable instrument and decided that the cat and the instrument must remain in the palace. Ivan remembered his agreement and asked the king to fulfill his promise and let him marry his daughter, Nancy. The king agreed, but the clever and arrogant Nancy only wanted to marry the English ambassador. To avoid marrying Ivan, she suggested he complete a task she deemed impossible, hoping to get rid of him forever. Naively, Ivan accepted the challenge and promised to accomplish whatever task Nancy decided. She told him she would reveal the task the next day. Later, Ivan met with Yana, who, seeing him happy, asked if he was sure the princess might agree to marry him. Ivan replied that he wasn't sure, but Nancy had proposed the challenge before agreeing to the marriage. She promised to marry him if he succeeded in completing the final task. That night, Princess Nancy went to the storage room to summon her evil mother's spirit. When the spirit appeared, it asked why she had summoned it. Nancy admitted that she wanted to assign Ivan a very difficult task so he couldn't complete it and they could get rid of him forever. Her mother suggested an extremely challenging task. The next day, according to the plan, the princess asked the ambassador to present the king with an astonishing machine. This device, when vegetables were placed inside, would automatically cut them, and when fruits were placed inside, it would produce juice on its own. What no one knew was that a person was hidden inside the machine, doing all the work. Of course, everyone thought the machine worked by itself. The ambassador asked the king if he had anything similar in his kingdom. Before the king could respond, Nancy intervened and asked if Ivan could bring something that could serve food on its own and then clean up afterward. The king mentioned hearing about a magical tablecloth that could do that, though he had never seen it. Cleverly, Nancy suggested to the king that if Ivan could bring the tablecloth, she would marry him. Under these conditions, Ivan set out with Yana in search of the legendary magical tablecloth. During their journey, Yana explained that the tablecloth was with two brothers, John and Ron, who had left the city years ago to live in a mountainous region. Over time, the brothers had become lazy due to the convenience of the tablecloth, which provided them with food effortlessly. As they continued their journey, Ivan and Yana stopped at the house of an elderly couple. Despite their poverty, they loved each other deeply. Yana remarked that love between two people should be like a needle and thread, one incomplete without the other, referring to the elderly couple. As they talked, they passed through beautiful green fields until they reached the mountainous area. There, they found the brothers, who were visibly overweight due to their inactivity, sitting among the high rocks with the magical tablecloth constantly bringing them food. The brothers were bored with the food and were about to rest when Ivan approached and asked them for the magical tablecloth. This angered them greatly, and in a moment of rage, they threw a jug at his head, knocking him unconscious. Yana quickly arrived to help him and suggested to the brothers that they look at their reflection in the water. When they saw how much they had changed and resembled animals due to their accumulated laziness, they felt deep sadness and asked Yana for a solution. She advised them to get rid of the magical tablecloth to overcome their laziness and start working to provide for themselves. The brothers agreed and handed the tablecloth to Yana, who took it and walked away with Ivan, who had regained consciousness. On their way back, Ivan was overjoyed to have found the tablecloth and began gathering flowers from the garden to give to the princess. Yana revealed to him that Nancy didn't actually want to marry him and had only assigned him this task to get rid of him. Innocent and kind-hearted, started, Ivan didn't want to believe this and explained to Yana how he planned to propose to the princess. Ivan's innocence and kindness made Yana fall in love with him, though she decided not to reveal her feelings at that moment. At the palace, the princess and the ambassador were celebrating, thinking Ivan would never return. But Ivan returned victorious and was enthusiastically welcomed by all the kingdom's residents who saw him as a hero. The king, impressed, told his daughter to see how the people admired and respected him. However, Nancy was furious because she had no intention of marrying Ivan. In despair, she returned to the storage room to summon her evil mother's spirit again and come up with a new plan to avoid marrying Ivan. The evil mother suggested another dangerous plan. The next day, in front of everyone in the royal court, Nancy told the king she was ready to marry but only with her mother's blessing. Therefore, Ivan had to venture into the dark world to gain her mother's approval for the marriage. Hearing this, the king understood that his daughter was placing impossible obstacles in Ivan's way to avoid the marriage, as going to the dark world and returning alive was an impossible feat. Both the king and Ivan felt discouraged by the difficulty of this task, but Ivan accepted the challenge. Later, he went to Yana, who warned him that venturing into such a place was like entering the jaws of death, as it was a different world. Ivan asked how he could get there and decided to go alone, but Yana explained that he would have to pass through a dark forest and a black river full of dangers and fog. The next day, he set out with Yana toward the dark world, the second. But before he left, he visited his blind father because he didn't know if he would return or not. When he heard Yana's voice, his father, who was a blacksmith working with difficulty because of his blindness, told her of his sadness because he hadn't heard his son's voice in days and couldn't search for him because he was blind. Yana and Ivan were saddened when they saw his condition. Ivan regretted leaving his father in such circumstances and asked for his forgiveness and for permission to embark on the journey. Then Ivan told Yana that although he had ruined 2 of his wishes, he wanted the third to be the healing of his father's eyes. Yana granted him this wish, and the father's eyes were healed, restoring his vision once again while he worked in blacksmithing. When they reached the river, Ivan reminded Yana that he had fulfilled 3 wishes and that she had helped him a lot, but he didn't want to cause her more trouble, so he decided to continue the journey alone. Then he handed her back her sea scarf and freed her. But Yana replied that he still didn't understand that their relationship was like a thread connected to a needle, inseparable. She said she wouldn't leave him alone in difficult times. She asked him to understand that when he succeeds, they could be together. Then Yana decided to go with him, even though Ivan still didn't fully understand the love she felt for him, as she didn't express her feelings clearly. Yana joined him in the boat, and they continued together on the river. When they entered, they saw statues of the messengers of death everywhere. She pointed to the dark area, and they stopped the boat and descended into a valley, even commented on the strangeness of the place. The guardian of the world approached and asked them, astonished, how they had arrived there. Yana replied that she had come with him. Ivan was surprised. The guardian revealed after Yana's response that she had come with him, and Ivan was still in shock. The guardian then revealed that Yana was his daughter and explained that he transformed her into a fish to learn and explore the world. Yana clarified that they had come to search for the queen's soul. The guardian told them that the queen had been a cruel and cunning woman who married the king to gain power and torment the poor, and that's why her soul was punished in this world, sentenced to eternal hunger. The guardian then brought forth the queen's soul, and in front of Yana and Ivan, she initially refused to agree to the marriage. Seeing the situation, Yana's father intervened and offered the queen food, explaining to her that her torment would not end unless she agreed. Under pressure, the queen finally agreed. Afterward, we go to King Yar's palace, where Nancy and the ambassador were enjoying a feast, and the king observed this sorrow. Suddenly, the queen's soul appeared on a tray and announced her agreement to the marriage in front of everyone, which filled the king with joy. Nonetheless, Nancy was stunned to see that Ivan had managed to complete the difficult task. At that moment, in the dark world, Yana thanked her father and returned to the boat with Ivan, preparing to leave. On the way, she told Ivan that he had completed the hardest task and didn't need her anymore. She asked him to forget her, saying with resignation that he would marry the princess anyway. But Ivan replied that he could never forget her and didn't want to. Yana, with sadness and resignation, thought about how those who return from that place tend to lose their memories. Elsewhere, Nancy, filled with anger, entered the storage room and smashed the chair she used to summon her evil mother's spirit. Her mother revealed that she had been forced to give Ivan some freedom under pressure, but admitted she had a secret that could solve all her problems. When Nancy asked about the secret, her mother explained that Ivan hadn't done all this alone in his adventures, and that a magical fish had been helping him with everything. In their kingdom, using magic was punishable by death. At that time, Ivan and Yana were continuing their journey on the river. When dawn broke, Ivan woke up and found the boat on the shore, and all his memories of Yana were gone. When he asked her, "Who are you?" Yana simply replied, "I'm just the one steering the boat." Ivan disembarked, feeling like he was forgetting something important. When he reached Nancy, he told her that although he had completed all his tasks, he had fallen in love with someone else, but he couldn't remember who. Nancy cleverly asked him if he had completed his tasks alone, and Ivan admitted that he had always relied on magical help, though he couldn't remember who it was either. When she heard about the magic, Nancy ordered the soldiers to arrest him immediately, as in their kingdom, this was punishable by death. Ivan was astonished, unable to believe that the person he had risked his life for would betray him this way. The next day, as they blindfolded him for execution, Yana suddenly arrived and offered her freedom in exchange for Ivan's. She handed Nancy her scarf with the fish insignia, her symbol of magic. Nancy was moved and accepted accepted the deal, canceling Ivan's execution. But after saving him, Nancy became even more consumed by power and arrogance. She decided to imprison her father to crown herself queen. After her coronation, she confessed to Yana that her first wish had come true. Now, she wished for the Prince of England to propose to her. Thanks to Yana's magic, English soldiers arrived with a marriage proposal from the prince. This made the English ambassador, who had once been Nancy's lover, feel betrayed. Without hesitation, Nancy demoted him to a janitor in the palace. Meanwhile, Ivan wandered through the places he had visited with Yana, unable to clearly remember anything. During a nighttime visit to his father, he met John and Ron, who had become emaciated from the physical effort they had exerted. His father reminded him that the last time he was there, he was with someone named Yana. When he saw the thread of a needle in John's hand, all his memories of Yana returned. Ivan was determined to reclaim his love once more. He decided to return to the palace, fight, and do the impossible to free Yana. With the help of his father and the brothers, Ivan broke through the palace gates. When he confronted Nancy, Ivan demanded Yana's release and threatened to do the impossible against the soldiers if she didn't agree. Nancy, always calculating, suggested Yana fulfill a third wish, to turn her into a witch like herself. Yana granted her wish, but with an unexpected twist. Nancy turned into a fish. When Nancy tried to reverse the transformation, she discovered she couldn't use magic for her own benefit, meaning Yana could grant magic to others but couldn't use it for herself. At that moment, water from a nearby well began to flow, and the king of fish appeared, mistaking Nancy for Yana and expressing his joy at seeing the fish he loved and wanted to marry. He took Nancy underwater to marry her. After being freed from Nancy, everyone celebrated, and Yana was liberated, as was Ivan's father. Ivan and Yana finally declared their love for each other and decided to live together forever, like the needle and thread. Thus, the magical and adventurous tale came to an end. See you in a new summary, and thank you for watching.